The Shadow Rising is book 4 of the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. And this one is where I've really started loving the series. So, to go different from last time, we're going to break the story down by the individual characters, so it's a bit more structured than the last one, because the last one was a total mess. So the first character I think we'll follow is who's on the cover, and I guess that is Matt. So Matt starts the story out in the Stone of Tyr, along with pretty much everyone else. Pretty much everyone starts in the Stone of Tyr. So Matt doesn't really have a whole lot to do, but what he does have to do in this book is pretty important. So for the most part, he just sort of follows Rand around. But he has some cool lines, some funny lines, and a pretty important thing in the Stone of Tyr. Not in the Stone of Tyr, sorry, in Rudion, the place in the Isle Waste. So basically, he ends up sort of just getting memories of hundreds and thousands of past, like, generals and lords, I think. It was a little bit hard to follow, because I do listen to these at work. And he also ends up fluent in the Old Tongue, which, again, I don't really understand how that happened. He was hanging from a tree, then Rand comes in and saved him. It was a bit strange. But he ends up with this really cool weapon as well, which is kind of almost exactly how I pictured it, so that's pretty cool. And then he sort of, he just follows Rand around again, and he doesn't really have a whole lot to do in the sort of the third act of the book. He sort of climaxes. Oh, that sounds weird. In the middle of the book. But I thought what Matt did have to do was pretty interesting. So Egwene is kind of similar to Matt, which is sort of kind of just follows Rand around, doesn't have a whole lot to do, but what she does have to do is quite interesting. So she starts off the book becoming friends with Avienda of the Aiel, along with Elaine. The sort of become good friends, and then in the dream world, she sort of discovers she has to go to the Isle Waste and train with the Wise Ones so she can better understand the dream world. And Egwene sort of just basically does that for the whole book. What we do see is quite interesting, but there isn't a whole lot there. It's sort of just similar to Matt. Interesting stuff, but not a whole lot of it. Where things get really exciting for me is the I can't say her name. Nynaeve. I really can't say her name. Storyline, along with Elaine. So they go to Tanchico because they discover from interrogating the Black Adja that were captured at the end of the previous book that there is a weapon that could maybe harm Rand. And personally, I kind of thought it was sort of obvious it was going to be one of the Shan-Chan bracelet type things, because it's pretty cool. I thought it was quite clear from the beginning. I think it was kind of meant to be. I don't think it was a sort of massive secret what it was. But on the way, they discover they meet another Shan-Chan woman. They don't realise she's Shan-Chan at first. Think she's just some random woman in Tanchico. I can't remember her name, but the Shan-Chan lady. And it was really interesting because obviously at the end of book 2, I think it was Egwene actually that was captured by the Shan-Chan and sort of like enslaved for what I think was a couple of months. So Nynaeve actually hates the Shan-Chan. But they become friends with this lady without knowing, and then when it's revealed it's a Shan-Chan, they're conflicted. Both Elaine and Nynaeve are both conflicted because they still like this woman. She's their friend, but she's a Shan-Chan. And this woman sort of just wants to learn more about the One Power. I think she'll probably end up staying friends with them because it seemed towards the end of the book when she helped them out, when she helped them get the Shan-Chan bracelet, but for Rand. It sort of seemed that she was forgiven. So I thought that was a really interesting sort of dynamic. So Nynaeve absolutely hates Shan-Chan. But it's conflicted because this lady is her friend. Because it sounds like they'd known her for a good couple of weeks by the time they found out. So I really enjoyed that storyline. Nynaeve also ends up battling one of the Forsaken, I believe, and like kicking her ass, which was like insane. Because the only other person we've seen really fight Forsaken, at least in my memory anyway, is Rand, and obviously Rand is like up here on the power scale. So That was pretty cool. Nynaeve, she's annoying at times, but I think she's a really good character. Same with Elaine. I really enjoy Elaine. She sort of was also involved in the storyline as well, but because she didn't hate the Shan-Chan quite as much as Nynaeve, she's she's a bit nicer. She's there, sort of calm Nynaeve down a bit, like be nice to the people Nynaeve's rude to, because she's rude to everyone. Like the dude who was giving them a ride in like a horse and carriage, and she told to go faster, and then was complaining that he was being too bumpy, and then Elaine just sort of like was like, I'm sorry, you know, just like here's some money. I think it's quite nice actually that Elaine's sort of so what's the word? She's just a nice person, and she's daughter heir to, is it Ando? I think it's Ando. She's Morghase's daughter anyway, whichever kingdom Morghase is from. So yeah, I really enjoyed that storyline. The end was pretty cool. Tom was there. I love Tom Merrilin. So was, is it Bail Doman, the ship captain from I think it was the end of the second book. Rand and Matt were on a boat with him, I think. Someone was on a boat with him. I recognised his name. He's just a pretty cool character too. And then there was, I think it's Julian Sandar, who actually betrayed Nynaeve, Egwene. He betrayed some of the ladies, but it's because he was compelled, I think. And he's also a pretty interesting character too. I think he's a sniffer. Like it wasn't Huron that was the sniffer, was it, in book 2? But he's a pretty cool character. I like him quite a lot as well. But we're going to move on to Rand now. I'm saving Min and Perrin for last because I absolutely love their storylines in this book. We're going to move on to Rand. I think there's a picture of Rand. It looks like, yeah, Rand al'Thor. So Rand, basically, at the start of the book, is visited by Lanfear. And when Lanfear is visiting them, Trollocs attack. But Lanfear is confused by this. So immediately I'm thinking, what's going on here? So obviously, Lanfear's there. Trollocs attack. You think, oh, Lanfear's done this. She's evil. But it's sort of revealed that Lanfear is kind of... She's a bit crazy, honestly. She's madly in love with Lews Therin Telamon, who, you know, is the dragon. Because Rand's the dragon reborn. She's kind of a little bit obsessed with Rand and wants to see sort of how much of her old lover is in Rand. It makes her a pretty interesting dynamic every time she pops up, because you kind of don't know what she's going to do. She doesn't seem straight up evil. She's one of the Forsaken. She's not a good person. But she doesn't seem to be doing things... I'm sure there's some sort of ulterior motive that's going to come up, but just kind of a love interest for Rand, which is weirdly, like, it's interesting. It's just a really cool dynamic, because Rand's like, whoa, I don't like you, but he talks to her. He doesn't try and kill her all too much. I think he does at the beginning of the book, actually, but I end up having a lot of conversations throughout the book and not much violence, and it's just really cool. But anyway, so after the Trolloc attack, or during the Trolloc attack, Rand just unleashes like this insane amount of power. I can't remember what it was. It was either some sort of black hole or some ridiculous like lightning blast. It was quite a while ago. I listened to the start of this book about a month ago. And just absolutely annihilates all the Trollocs, and it was really cool. I just remember being like, whoa, Rand is strong. So after the attack, he plants Calendor in the Stone of Tyr and goes off to the Aiel Waste, to Rudion. And he undergoes one of the trials of a Aiel clan chief. And in this, we see that Aiel, who have, through the last 3.5 books, been sort of built up to be these sort of absolutely unstoppable warriors who are like, they just love violence, they'll just kill anything. I mean, they wear the veils, they're quite interesting people, but we'll learn that they actually used to be complete pacifists. And it's what they see in Rudion, the clan chiefs that the Aiel just they broke some oaths, they became extremely violent, obviously, to defend the lands. Oh god, I keep stuttering. But then Rand comes out of Rudion, he gets the dragon tattoos, which are pretty cool, and then they head over to I can't remember the name of it. Is it Cold Stones? I think it was Ruog's sort of hold in the waste. and they have a conversation there. There's a Trolloc attack, and then they end up going to basically announce to everyone that Rand is, I can't remember what they call it, the Aiel, but he's basically the Dragon Reborn, but the Aiel have a different name for it. And then there is Couladin there, who's like, I've got dragon tattoos too. So then Rand basically exposes that Couladin is lying, because Couladin says like the history of the Aiel are that they're incredible warriors and they've always been violent, all the way back to their ancestors. And then Rand, it's a big no-no, he tells all the Aiel that they used to be pacifists, and this sort of, I think this was the breaking of the Aiel that was prophesied, because a lot of the Aiel don't like this. You know, they've been like fighters their whole lives, they just don't believe it, and this is why the clan chiefs don't sort of forbidden to talk about it, but Rand's there to change the rules. So anyway, after all that, one of the Forsaken, I think it's Osmodian, turns out is in Rudion trying to, I can't remember what he's trying to get. He's trying to get something. So Rand goes, he fights Osmodian. There's a really cool battle. It sounds like they're sort of like shifting around, like it sounds like it's sort of through this huge space, and it's really cool. There's power being thrown everywhere. Anyway, Rand defeats Osmodian, but he doesn't kill him. This is important. Rand needs a teacher for the One Power. So Lanfear, again, who told Rand that Thingy was in Rudion, Osmodian was in Rudion. So it's a bit confused what happens. I think she shields him in a way, but like not fully shields him. So he's got like a little bit of use of the One Power still, and essentially like he's spared so he can train Rand. So we've basically got three factions kind of. We've got the Forsaken, the Dark One, who we basically don't know anything about still, and like the good guys, sort of Rand and everyone. And Lanfear and the Forsaken are all sort of their own separate things, but I'm lumping them all together. And so Osmodian's left alive. He's basically like a shell of his former self. And it was also revealed that the reason the Forsaken don't go mad, the male Forsaken don't go mad, is because they have some sort of like string attached to the Dark One, which Rand cut off. So if Osmodian channels, he's gonna go mad like every other man would. Which is pretty cool, which I think might be sort of linked to the end of the whole series. I think Rand's either going to get attached to the Dark One himself, so he doesn't go mad, and that'll be like a big twist, or Rand's just going to go mad. But I think that'll come up again later on, because it was quite interesting. So yeah, basically Rand, he's got a teacher in one of the, I guess he's not one of the Forsaken anymore, because he's on the good guys team now, I guess, because he doesn't want to die. And Lanfear is still out there being Lanfear, which is a very interesting character. I'm looking forward to coming up again. It's quite interesting. All the Forsaken. I've read a couple of chapters of the next book, and the Forsaken are just so interesting. But anyway, we're going to move on to Min or Perrin next. I haven't decided which one. I see Min, so we'll probably go. So Min is quite similar to Matt and Egwene in that she doesn't have a whole lot to do in the book. She's only in 2 or 3 chapters, I think. But what she does have is like incredible. So the book opens with Min, and she's just arrived at the White Tower. She's using like a sort of like scene ability. That loads of Aes Sedai in the waters are going to get brutally murdered, and obviously this freaks Min out. She goes to tell the Amlin seat Swan Sonshay what she's seen, and she's like, I know that must be Black Adger stuff. Don't worry about it. Basically, well, not don't worry about it, but it's nothing too important. Just suspect it's Black Adger stuff. So then Min goes off. She meets Galwyn and Galad, who are worrying about Elaine still. It's a nice little side plot. But then we'll cut to, it's not Leandrin, it's Elida, I think. Elida from the first book. I think she was more Gaze's advisor. And she's scheming. So then we'll come away from there. We'll go, we'll listen to Egwene, Matt, Rand, all those over at Tyr. And it was about halfway through the book, I think. We're sort of like cut back to Min. And she's still just walking around the White Tower, seeing stuff, all that. Nothing too interesting. But then we're cut back to Swan Sonshay. She's sitting in a study, and this was my favourite chapter in the whole series so far. Just sitting in a study, just going through, just looking at random little problems that have been put to her, trying to find solutions. And in walks, I think it's Elida. We're going to say it's Elida. It might have been Leandrin. It was someone. I think it was Elida. And essentially, they kick her out. she's not the Amlin anymore. The stage of Q, and then you find out later on that she's been stilled, and I was like, whoa, because like Swan Chanshay just seems like the most powerful person. She's not the emperor of like there's not of the world, like, the world of the Wheel of Time, but she's one of the most powerful people in the world, not just like physically with the one power, but like influence wise. She's essentially a king's answer to her. She's so powerful, and she's been stilled along with the keeper of whatever it is, essentially a second-hand woman. I can't remember her name, but Linny, something like that. She's pretty cool. I like her. But they've been stilled, so Min is like, I'm not staying here anymore. She ends up breaking out Swan and her right-hand lady, and they've run into none other than Logain. So then they go off, they run away, and that chapter just blew my mind. I was waiting the whole book for more because it was so interesting. But we'll pick up at the start of the fifth book with those that party. But yeah, absolutely love the stuff with Min and Swan Chanshay in the tower. So interesting. I can't wait to see how that's going more. Because I think Elida, is it Elida? Whoever staged the coup, I think she's Black Adger. She might not be, but I think she's Black Adger. That would make sense. We're going to move on to my favourite plot now of the entire book. The entire story so far is Perrin. I need to take a drink. Just 1 second. So the book opens again. Perrin and Fael are in the Stone of Tyr. There's the attack, he does his axe, he fights his axe, blah blah blah, and he's trying to go out and find rumours to lure Fael away, because obviously Perrin is in love with Fael at this point, and he doesn't want to get hurt, so he's trying to find some rumours to lure Fael away, because there's adventure and all that. But he ends up overhearing that the White Cloaks are in the Two Rivers, and Perrin's like, whoa, what? So he basically stages his plan because he hears that the White Cloaks after him. Stages his plan to essentially go sacrifice himself to the White Cloaks to save the Two Rivers and Emond's Field. But Min's in a hope with them. Not Min, sorry, I just looked at that. Fael's in a hope with them. So Fael sort of manipulates Loyal into taking her through the ways to the Two Rivers instead of Perrin, so then Perrin's going to follow them, so Fael's there the whole time. A lot of people don't like Fael from what I've seen. I think it's quite an interesting character. It makes sense because you hear that just later on that she's a lady. Like a noble lady, so to kind of explain her entitlement. I suspected that from the beginning anyway, not from the beginning, but from the beginning of this book. Yeah, so they arrive in Emond's Field. Turns out all of Perrin's family have been like brutally murdered by the White Cloaks. So Perrin just goes on a rampage, killing Trolloc after Trolloc after Trolloc, and forms a little group called the Companions. He doesn't call them the Companions; they call themselves the Companions. And essentially just defend Emond's Field from Trollocs. Loyal goes off to seal a waygate with the Aiel bloke who's following Perrin around. I can't remember his name. Gaul follows Gaul around, and we'll meet Rand and Matt's fathers, who are sort of tutoring Perrin at the beginning, but then they become like his followers, like everyone else. Essentially, Perrin just saves the day at the Two Rivers. He saves the day from the Trollocs. Fael ends up sort of tricking Perrin, brings over a bunch of villagers from the other village to help fight off the Trollocs, which again saves them. And then everyone starts calling Perrin Lord Golden Eyes or like Lord Wolf, and he gets this cool banner here made for him. It was just so cool because he's went from just a blacksmith who doesn't really want to partake in violence to this just insane sort of leader who, not insane, like great leader, and he saved his village. The conflict with the White Cloaks was kind of interesting. The White Cloaks said they would help, and then they didn't. And Perrin was like, I'm not handing myself over, you didn't help. And then they sort of storm off. The White Cloaks are just dreadful also. Like, horrible, horrible people. There's also the stuff in the Wolf Dream. I forgot about that. And the stuff with the Tinker. Oh my god, the stuff with the Tinker. Aram, I think, who picks up a sword and essentially is disowned by the rest of the Tinkers because they're meant to be pacifists. I think we saw him in book 1 as well. I think it was a boy who Gwaine was dancing with. But it was just so cool. Like, so many conflicts and like, oh my god, I love this storyline. It was so good. I wish everything else was up to this like standard. I mean, I'm sure everything else will pick up. But I love this storyline. It was so good. more stuff like this would be amazing. The stuff with the Tinker, the Dreamworld Slayer with Lord Luke. I think it was pretty obvious Lord Luke was a bit sketchy from the start, but I didn't realize he was going to be Slayer. So yeah, that was what I thought of the Shadow Rising, basically. A bit rambly still and rubbish at this, but not as bad as the first video. So this book was... bits of it were my favourite, bits of the third one was still my favourite. The Perrin and Min stuff, by far the best stuff so far. I think the Shadow Rising was probably my favourite book so far, though, if I had to just pick one. The audiobook performances as well are amazing. So thank you everyone very much for watching, like, sub, all that good stuff, and I will be back probably next month with, I can't even remember the name of the 5th book, but I've just started the 5th book, so it'll be a little while. And let me know what you think of the Shadow Rising as well. No spoilers for anything after, though, and have a good rest of your day.